This bathroom stinks, and lighting a match is not going to help in this case. I'm talking about how outdated it is and how terribly it functions. Bathrooms are the worst in my experience. They are more prone to leaks and clogs than kitchens, and they age way less gracefully than any other room in the house. Talking about you, avocado toilet. In my case, I tore up this bathroom not only because it needed to be updated, but it had structural issues from leaks and shoddy patch jobs in the past. If you've been following me up to this point, you've seen some of the mysteries and hidden horrors of this bathroom, but there's no need to worry, they are all fixed, and what we are left with is a clean canvas for us to express our fecal facility fantasies. Let's go!
I realize we're covering a lot in this video, so I'm going to be giving you kind of a cliff notes on how we did the shower and the floor for this bathroom. It's not all encompassing, but I hope it helps a few people with doing similar finishes in their bathrooms. The plumbing for sink, shower, and toilet in this build is going to be very simple because we stubbed everything out in PEX beforehand. For my build, I did all PEX type A along with a Moen valve set. I got brass fittings from a local plumbing company so that I can do my stub outs from the wall coming through with brass tubing. I installed the block for my shower head at about 7 foot. That's the point where I need it because I'm a fairly tall guy and I'm tired of hitting my head on shower heads or using those swan neck little extension rods. Installing a valve set really is quite simple. It's all in the manual whenever you buy the valve, so I'll just leave that to you to read on how to do it. It's very self-explanatory. Getting into something a little bit more technical, now I'm going to be switching on to working on the floor. I'm prepping the floor with water because I'm going to be putting down a Schluter Ditra decoupling membrane. The reason for putting down a decoupling membrane is twofold. It waterproofs the floor and it keeps the tile from cracking in the event that your house shifts. It's sort of a way to protect your investment if you're going to be putting down a good quality tile. Since we're working on a wooden subfloor, I'm using a modified mortar and a 1/4 inch notch trowel to put down the Ditra Schluter system. After getting a good stand of grooves, I'm going ahead and putting it down felt side down, which will create our decoupling surface. The reason you use modified mortar here instead of just regular mortar is because then it slows down the drying process. The wood will want to absorb the water and kind of prevent it from drying correctly. So go ahead and do modified mortar if you're working on wood, or regular mortar if you're working between two solid surfaces like concrete and tile. This stuff goes down super easy and really quickly, so if you're going to be doing something like this, make sure you have something else lined up to do afterwards. You're going to find yourself spending more time waiting on it to dry than you are actually putting it in. Give it a nice adhering press and you're all done. If you remember earlier in the video, this back wall of the shower actually used to be the water-resistant drywall. I took that down in order to use Durock instead. Since I'm not going to be putting in a modular shower system and instead going to be tiling it, I thought this would be a better waterproofing feature. The last thing we want is water damage behind our tile that eventually leads to mold. I'm using a cement-rated mesh joint tape to go over all the seams in my shower, and then I'm going to use the rest of that modified mortar to go ahead and cover it in, joining those boards together nice and clean. I'm kind of just splotting on all the mortar, but then before I'm done, I go ahead and make sure to smooth it out real nice and clean so that whenever I go to tile, it'll be a fairly smooth surface. The main idea here is just to cover up all your cracks so that you have a good, consistent surface to tile over. Now, we are going to be coming back and doing red guard over this once it dries. I'm using red guard, but there are plenty of other paintable membranes that you can put over this board to waterproof it better. This Durock is water rated, and I really only need to tape the joints, but I thought ahead. I already bought the bucket. Coating the whole shower isn't going to do anything but give me extra protection. We're coming back into this bedroom with a white marble looking tile. We're using 2x1 and we're going to do it in a herringbone pattern. Whenever you're laying out the pattern for a floor, you want to do it from the vantage point of when you will be entering the room. You can do your pattern so that it lines up in the middle of the room, but for something like a bathroom, you're going to have a sink in there, you're going to have a toilet in there. So lining it up off center from the middle of the room, but where your normal viewpoint is, aka coming in the door, is the most important way to line up your tile. Because many of my perimeter tiles had to be cut on a 45-degree angle, I rented a wet tile saw to help me get this job done faster. Most of my perimeter tiles are going to be cut on a 45-degree angle, but I did have a couple special tiles that needed to be cut, especially the one for the toilet flange. Since I wasn't fortunate enough to have my toilet flange land between two tiles, I had to cut a hole basically right in the middle of one of them. I cut the diagonal line first because the wet tile saw is a little bit rougher than the angle grinder, then continued by finessing a nice little hole for my toilet flange cutout. This was a job that took a little bit of patience, cutting it both from the front and the back, but once I had all the holes mostly cut through, just tapped it a little bit with a piece of wood, and the hexagon popped right out, leaving me a perfect place to put the toilet flange. Now I took 2 days to tile this floor because once I got the main portion of the floor done, I couldn't put any weight on it, otherwise the tiles would shift. So I left this row of tiles for the very last on the second day of tile work. I heavily recommend, if you're going to be using these large format tiles, to get the leveling system that uses little plastic wedges and clips to make sure that the tops of the tiles are completely flush with one another. It's an extremely fast, easy, and effective way to make sure that all your tiles line up exactly the way you want them. I'm going to put a link down on the bottom of the video for all the supplies I used on this bathroom. Don't worry, they're not affiliate links, there's just good information that you can consider if you like any of the tools that I'm using. Back to the task at hand, you'll realize that I'm kind of awkward with these tools, right? I'm not moving extremely quickly. It doesn't look like I know what I'm doing because I don't. I've never tiled a floor before. But I can say that if you take your time and you exercise some patience while putting this floor in, making sure that you get things level and nice and secure, your floor is going to come out perfect. I swear, the stuff that you can do with these tiles with a little bit of patience can look absolutely amazing. You can see that patience pay off right here when this one tile, the special tile for the toilet, lines up exactly where it needs to. Putting in a couple wedges and securing it down with a little, I'm just going to call it a clamper thing. I don't really know what it is. But this hand tool right here to clamp your wedges into place against the break-off tabs, yeah, goes on super smooth, holds everything real tight and flush, and it's going to come out amazing. Now that's basically how you do the entire floor, just taking your time, putting in your tabs, and laying your tiles carefully next to one another. Now I must admit there is a step I missed when putting down my membrane. I didn't join my seams with more of the waterproof tape from the Schluter system. There's the tape that you put over your seams that you join in place with more mortar, and I didn't do that. But because this is under the sink, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. That's not really an area where you're going to have a lot of standing water for long periods of time. So I'm not concerned about it, but it is just something to note if you're going to be doing this yourself. It might be worth investing a little bit of extra time. After 24 hours, your floor is ready to be cleaned up. You can just snap off all the leveling tabs with a mallet, give it a nice rub with a sponge, and clean up your grout lines, and then you can move on. The process for tiling the shower is exactly the same as the floor. It's just going to be a little bit more frustrating because it's going to be messy. So make sure you put down a cover over your tub. I had to scavenge some Snapchat video here because my main camera didn't actually have any recordings on it for doing this tile, but I assure you it is exactly the same process. With the heaviest part of the lifting done, we just threw in a sink, hung a mirror, and called it good.
So the fruit of all that labor is this, a wonderful, clean, modernized looking bathroom that has absolutely no work left to do on it at all. Have a good day.